Welcome back to my channel where we manifest and live our dream life. On this channel, you'll find vlog style glimpses into my own life, as well as sit down chats like this one, so you and me can figure out together how to grow and live our best life. And the subject this week, consistency. Which, by the way, I struggle with majorly. But I heard something this week that I feel like is going to completely change the game for me. Okay, let's be totally real with each other. How many times have you set a goal, started off super strong, and then just completely fell off track? Yeah, same. And it's kind of frustrating because you kind of want to be the personality that is the consistent person, and you also know that consistency does get you further in life. But if you're anything like me and you struggle with consistency, you're like constantly fighting a battle with yourself, which is so frustrating. I'd have all these big goals, I'd get super motivated. I'd literally plan out everything. Then a few weeks into whatever I was planning, I'd completely lose momentum, or my schedule would get so busy. But the problem is that then I'd start to feel guilty, and I kind of start to feel like I was a failure, and I just completely stop everything. And for the longest time, I literally thought the problem was me. I thought I was just bad at staying consistent. But recently I figured out something that completely changed how I look at consistency, and I knew I had to share it with you guys. So let's start by talking about what's the real reason that you keep falling off track. And settle in, grab yourself a coffee, mine is almost done, and let's get into talking about the real reason that you keep falling off track. So here's the thing, most people think that consistency is all about discipline. Kind of like if you push yourself hard enough, you'll eventually force yourself to stick with something. But that's actually where we've both been making the biggest mistake. Now get this, because this is the game changer for me. The real reason that you're struggling with consistency all the time, your identity does not match your goal. Let me explain. If you constantly see yourself as someone who always falls off, or from your past, you are someone who really does struggle to stay consistent, you will subconsciously act in alignment with that identity because you believe it to be true. You believe that you are not capable of becoming a consistent person. And even when you try super hard to stay consistent, your brain and your mind will actually bring you back towards the version of yourself that feels most familiar to you. What's important to remember on this point is your brain always acts in alignment with the person you truly believe you are. And don't forget your subconscious here. It's not just telling yourself on the front level, no, I can be consistent, I'm a consistent person. It's, do you subconsciously really believe that? Think about it like this. If you see yourself, and if you've shown yourself that you are only the person that always sets new goals but never ever finishes them, you'll eventually self-sabotage your new goals because your mind always goes back to the familiar place to keep you safe. If you're anything like me, when I heard that consistency was an identity problem, it literally blew my mind. I was like, that makes so much sense. It's not about who I can be, it's about who I believe myself to be so far, and I need to change my subconscious mind. But how exactly do we do that? So let's talk about the identity shift that changes everything. Instead of forcing yourself to be consistent and just telling yourself that this is the way it has to be, you need to first begin to shift how you actually see yourself. And to do this, you have to do some inner work, and you have to ask yourself, who is the version of me that is naturally consistent? What does she believe about herself, and how do they show up every day? For example, the best example I can give you, instead of saying to yourself, I want to be more disciplined, replace that I want with I am someone who always follows through on her word. And that is called an identity shift statement. Here's a few more. I am the type of person who honors commitments to themselves. I don't rely on motivation. I build habits that support a better life. I keep showing up even if I don't see results and even if it's imperfect, because growth matters too. Okay, all that sounds amazing, but if you're anything like me, it's like really, really, really difficult to stay consistent, and you are always falling off. And all of what I just said probably is making a lot of sense to you. A lot of light bulbs are clicking. You're starting to see, wow, it really is about how I look at myself and what I tell myself and what I tell my mind every day to become that consistent person. But only do we want to become that consistent person, which is going to be hard in the beginning, but we also want to make it feel effortless. And we also want consistency in our life to be effortless. So the question remains, how do we make consistency effortless? Which is kind of like the practical part of all of this. If you are someone who struggles to stay consistent like I was, then here's 3 things that is going to change everything for you. So here is the first tip I can give you. Make it sound ridiculously easy. And I am a sucker for this one. Most people fall off track because they try and do too much at once, or they set the bar way too high. Like, I'm going to lose 30 pounds in a week. I'm going to become a full-time content creator in 1 month and gain 100,000 subscribers. Not impossible, but very, very, very high standard. So instead of setting unrealistic goals, make it so easy on yourself that you cannot fail. So the best example, and the example that a lot of people use, is if you want to start working out or making videos on YouTube, instead of saying to yourself today, when you've decided that you're going to watch this YouTube video and become consistent, instead of saying to yourself, I'm going to go to the gym 5 times next week, start with saying, I'm going to stretch for 5 minutes 3 times next week. By making it sound ridiculously easy to you, and by making it ridiculously easy for you, you are going to start training yourself to be more consistent, because you are more likely going to follow through on that realistic goal than the unrealistic goal. And the realistic goal is going to teach your subconscious mind that you are the type of person that follows through on your commitments. And the unrealistic goal is going to keep feeding your subconscious mind and keep telling yourself that the identity that you have never shows up and never follows through. And we got to shift that, because we're trying to live our best lives in 2025. And number 2 on how to stay consistent effortlessly, attach it to your identity. Every time you do the habit, reinforce it to your identity. If you decide to start by going for a 5-minute walk 3 times a week, I want you to start your walk by saying, I am the type of person that takes care of their body. I want you to say it at the start of your walk, the middle of your walk, and the end of your walk. If you are deciding to journal for 2 minutes every single morning, say to yourself at the end of your journal session, I am someone who prioritizes their mindset. And number 3 is celebrate the small wins. I feel like we don't do this enough anymore, because social media has taken off and everybody is an influencer and everybody's content creator, and we forget to celebrate the small wins. Just this week, I got this little notification off YouTube, which I thought was the cutest thing ever, celebrating 10 subscribers. Yes, 10 subscribers. So if it is only your first time clicking on this video, then I would so appreciate a new subscriber, and say hey down in the comments as well. As I said, don't forget to celebrate the small wins. We have a tendency as human beings to only stick with things that feel really good. So instead of waiting until you're perfect to feel proud, celebrate all the small wins. Did you drink water first thing in the morning, like you said you wanted to? Amazing, celebrate it. Did you show up for yourself this week in even a small way? That's growth. So acknowledge it and celebrate it. And finally, we can never leave these chats without talking about mindset, because mindset is everything. At the very end of the day, consistency has nothing to do with willpower. It is about self-trust. So think about it from the outside, because we are so much better at doing that as humans. If you had a friend that constantly made promises and then always flaked on you, you would kind of stop trusting them, right? Well, that is exactly what we are doing to ourselves every time we say we'll change and we don't follow through. So instead of aiming for some extreme life overhaul, focus this week on rebuilding the trust within yourself. Keep the promises that you make, even the really small ones, because as soon as you start proving to yourself that you're someone who follows through on what they say they will do, that is when everything will begin to shift. This month, personally for me, I am going to absolutely try so much harder on shifting my identity and becoming more consistent with my routines, even in small ways. So I also hope for you that instead of forcing consistency, let's both focus on becoming the version of ourselves that shows up with ease. And with that, guys, I'm going to wrap up today's video. If this resonated with you, let me know in the comments below, and let me know what's the one habit or shift that you're planning on focusing on this month, and let's keep each other accountable. As always, thank you so much for watching and choosing my channel to grow your life into something amazing, because it truly can be. And remember, not only can we manifest it, but we can live it too.